Today's witness is called Maron. About 22, slim, handsome, fair, a well brought up, innocent look, a good school voice, a sort of fledgling authority, pleasant. Maron will tell us of terrors at dawn and blinding lights and rewards instead of punishment, and of the disappearance of a body. I'm perfectly willing to tell you all I know about the night the preacher's body went from the tomb, but all I know doesn't amount to very much. I know what I've been told, and it may be the truth, or those who told me weren't even there. My wife says I worry about it too much. She says it often. She also says that if it hadn't been for that night, we couldn't have afforded to get married and buy this little house. It's true. Second lieutenants earn almost nothing in the Temple Guards. It's all honour and glory, all father to son if you're an officer. The men do better than we do. It's very father to son in our family. We've been soldiers for generations, right back to Judas Maccabeus. More medals than money, my mother says. She's also very pleased the money came my way, like my wife is. Women have a special sort of logic, I think. My father, whose household cavalry attached to Antipas Palace in Tiberias, had made it clear that he won't discuss the matter with me. He sees it as sleeping on duty, and that's the end of it. He's not easy to talk to at any time, my father. My brother, who's a major in the infantry, is no better. He says it's the highest paid, worst bit of soldiering in history. Do you wonder I worry about it? Another thing, my father and my brother are military. They deal with senior F officers, the cavalry and the infantry. I get my orders from priests. The Temple Guard are really policemen. Our authority comes from the elders, the Sanhedrin Council, the religious parties. That's where the order came from that Saturday morning. The officers of the High Priest Caiaphas and the Pharisee party. It's just over a year ago. We've been married about 7 months, my wife and I. The order was simple and clear. A 10-man guard detail with 2 officers to proceed to the burial ground alongside Crucifixion Hill and mount a day and night guard on a tomb. Not a guard of honour, normal dress and arms. Not a lying-in state guard, a watch guard. No details given at all as to the occupant of the tomb, whose owner was Councillor Joseph of Arimathea, my father's second cousin, Uncle Joseph, who was very much alive. We were up at the tomb by noon. When we arrived, 2 men from temple maintenance were sealing the front stone with clay and attaching the official tags. Seemed a needless procedure. They were saying bits of clay round the edge of a slab of stone that looked as though it weighed 50 tons. It closed the entrance to the tomb, which was cut in solid rock. Official sealing, official tags, and a full temple guard. Somebody or something very valuable in there, my corporal said. We sorted out our roster and settled in. 2 hours on, 4 off. Always 4 men on guard, officers to share duty. A sunny, mild afternoon, a cool evening, a cold night. Normal for the time of year. As I say, what did actually happen I can't tell you, mainly because I was asleep. It was just before dawn. I'd done the 3rd night watch and was off duty, asleep. What woke me was a mixture of things, really. A blinding white light and men shouting in terror. My men. I'm not proud to tell you. There was a sound like a great wind and a movement in the ground, like an earthquake or landslide. I was dazed. As I tried to get to my feet, my corporal, in full flight with his eyes staring out of his head, went straight into me. We both hit the ground together. I caught his fear. I've never been so frightened, or known less why. I felt some great thing was happening to do with the blinding light and the earth movements. The corporal and I clung together. Then he went limp. I thought he'd died of fright. I remember that just as I thought that such a thing is impossible, everything went dark and I fainted. It couldn't have been for long. It seemed, as I came to, that the whole troop was waking up. I got up to investigate, feeling very groggy. Zephyr, the other officer, was as unsteady on his feet as I was. The great white light had gone. It was pale dawn. You know, sometimes you just don't believe what your eyes tell you. The stone had been rolled right back as though it weighed a penny, rolled on edge like a penny. Not a lever or a footmark or a clue of any kind. The tomb was empty, except for some body wrappings. If there had been valuables, it was a rich man's tomb. They'd gone. Zephyr and I got much the same thought at the same moment. Court-martial. 12 men guarding one small place against God knows what, and failing completely. We questioned the men together. They all seemed dazed, in shock, stupid, or drugged. There'd been a lot of talk lately in the city of students inducing mind journeys or trips with hallucinogenic drugs, and it occurred to me that our wine or water or food had been tampered with. The men's stories varied a lot, but had certain things in common. All spoke of the brilliant light. 2 said it was a man, or 2 men, who gave off this light. An angel, one said, the other a white-hot man. No one had seen anybody move the stone or leave the tomb. Some spoke of music from the sky, of great singing winds or choirs, others of shooting stars and explosions in their heads and powerless limbs and terror. Others still of the stone leaping to one side and a great groan from the bowels of the earth, great weeping noises from heaven. All told of everything going black, of fainting, of terror, of collapse. Zephyr and I talked. We were in trouble. What could we report? If we wrote down what the men had told us, it would look like the burbles of lunatics or men crazy drunk. It would nothing to hide the simple fact that the thing for which we were there to present had happened. It was our fault. We were officers in charge. The blame was ours. We decided to go ourselves to council and tell all we knew. We went first to tell our CEO, who went glossy-eyed, for our absolute failure of duty was certain to reflect upon him. He came with us to the temple. We told our story first to the elders, who sat like statues. Then we went with them to the palace of High Priest Caiaphas and repeated it all to him. He has an unblinking stare, Caiaphas, and eyes with no expression, terrifying. When we'd finished, he nodded and told us to wait in the small anteroom. We were in that room about 2 hours, shaking, for dereliction of duty carries not only disgrace to the whole family, but punishment of a most severe kind. Then we were called back in it. Just the 2 of us, not our CO. We were spoken to by one of the elders, I believe a cousin of Caiaphas, with a smooth, modulated voice and the same eyes. He told us that we had been the victims of a diabolical clever plot in which powerful drugs, magic and sorcery had been used to make powerless 12 highly trained men to whom no blame could be in any way attached. Indeed, he said, we were to be richly rewarded for our bravery and discretion. When I looked puzzled about the word discretion, he went on to tell us that he could now reveal that the body in the tomb had been that of the Galilean preacher Jesus the carpenter, the fraud and impostor crucified for his crimes against the people and sedition against Rome, tried and sentenced by Governor Pilate himself. The tomb had been sealed and guarded against a foreseen attempt by the dead preacher's followers to make the body disappear as though by a miracle, and thus perpetuate the fraud and deception of the people. All was foreseen, he told me, and allowed for. No shame or disobedience, a reward, And that was the story. The only story. No other. Even if Governor Pilate himself were to ask us, this was the story. Drugs, magic and sorcery, and the stealing of the body by a large gang of trained agitators. Then the elder gave us a bag of gold to share among the men, and a bag of gold each for ourselves, nearly as big. Before distributing the money to the men, the elder said, explain to them and coach them the exact and only story. And that's it. You needn't tell me the other stories of the carpenter rising from the dead and meeting his friends and so on. I've heard them. Good luck to him. I'm grateful to him. Because of him, I'm married and we've got a nice house and garden. As my wife says to tell you, if you don't like one story, choose another. There are lots.